So welcome everybody to today's virtual accelerator for women going global. We are really excited to be bringing this program completely virtually to your homes across Canada, all with the spirit of really promoting women across various ecosystems to go global, both startups, scale-ups, and really everybody in between. So we have been doing over the last couple of months at Startup Canada a series of virtual accelerators and boot camps where we have been preparing entrepreneurs to go global. So we've been talking about e-commerce, financing options, marketing your startup or scale up globally, really trying to equip entrepreneurs during COVID and beyond in giving them the tools, the mentorship, and sort of the space to ask questions around going global. So today's session, we're really excited, is focused on women and connecting with various subject matter experts and roundtable facilitators to give all of us the tools that we need to scale our businesses and put Canada really on this global stage. So in terms of our overall outline of today's session, we are going to have two speakers, and we are delighted to be joining by Jennifer Cook, who is the corporate lead of Women in Trade at Export Development Canada. Jennifer joined EDC in 2010 to work directly with Canadian companies and really help them in succeeding within international markets. As the corporate lead for EDC's Women's in Trade strategy, her job is really focused specifically on helping more women entrepreneurs export to grow their businesses. So we're in the right place. Working directly through key partners, EDC has really been offering specialized trade knowledge, facilitating trade with financing, insurance, providing connections, and really enabling companies to go and succeed globally. So welcome, Jennifer. We also are really excited to have Stephanie Fontaine, the Canada Country Director from We Connect International. And Stephanie is the Canada Country Director of an organization, a global organization, whose mission is really to help women-owned businesses succeed in global value chains. So we're really excited to learn a little bit more about the programs offered through We Connect International and get a sense of Stephanie's journey supporting women entrepreneurs in this space. My name is Kayla Isabel, and I'm the Executive Director here at Startup Canada, and I will be facilitating today's conversation, but we're really trying to squeeze in a few presentations. We'll have, at the end of our session, also a bit of a pitch prep session from Melanie, who is a wonderful pitch advisor through Volition. We've been doing a series of pitch building boot camps with her and her team, so we'll be sharing that at the very end via video. In addition to a number of facilitators that we will have moderating our rapid fire breakout sessions with all of you today. So we have Brenda Holleran, the chair of Startup Canada and the former mayor of Waterloo, who's a wonderful champion for women in entrepreneurship. We have Melanie Campbell from Startup Peel. We have Nancy Wilson from the Canadian Women's Chamber of Commerce. Elizabeth Reed from the Trade Commissioner Service, and Helen Hemmingsen, the president of OWIT. So we're delighted to have a number of facilitators helping with today's conversation. So in terms of setting the context for today, with the Canadian Export Challenge in general, we really want to provide as many opportunities to ask questions as possible, but we do have a very tight timeline. So we do encourage everybody in today's chat to use the chat function that you'll see at the very bottom of your screen. In the middle space, there's a bit of a thought bubble, and then you can access a wonderful thread of people that are making connections. You can ask directed questions. We are going to try to answer as many of those questions as possible, but to those that we aren't able to answer, we will connect them back to our team and find a way to articulate that information to you directly. A couple of housekeeping items. If everyone can keep their microphones on mute, please. You're welcome to have your video on and off, on or off rather, but please mute your microphones so that we make sure that we have the best sound quality possible. The presentations will be sent afterwards. We are recording these sessions as well, but they will be distributed after our Canadian Export Challenge. So I'll provide some additional information about CXC, or our Canadian Export Challenge, is our program in the fall, at the end of our session, because all of these sessions are really building up to our grand finale, if you will. So I think that's really it in terms of housekeeping, and I think we're good to go. Jennifer, are you ready to begin?
Yes, indeed. Let me start sharing my presentation.
Wonderful. I'll pass things over to Jennifer Cook at EDC.
Thank you so much, and hello and welcome everyone. Bienvenue à toutes. Thank you for joining us today for this event. As Kayla mentioned, my name is Jennifer Cook and I lead the Women in Trade strategy at Export Development Canada. and I'm excited to speak to all of you today. But before we start, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. So today I'm speaking to you all from the city of Burlington, Ontario, which as we know it today is rich in history and modern traditions of many First Nations and the Métis. From the Anishinaabe to the Haudenosaunee and the Métis, our lands spanning from Lake Ontario to the Niagara Escarpment are steeped in Indigenous history. The territory is mutually covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which is an agreement between the Iroquois Confederacy, the Ojibwe, and other allied nations to peaceably share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. We would like to acknowledge also that the land on which we gather is part of the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. Just try and advance the slide. So that's me. Today, we are going to cover a lot of ground. So I want to start first by just level setting a little bit to tell you about Export Development Canada and how we support Canadian companies. We'll talk a little bit about why exporting is an important strategy for growth and what some of the best practices are of successful exporters. We'll talk about planning, especially about financial resources and cash flow management, and some of the financial tools that could be helpful to you along your export journey. And finally, we'll try to keep a few minutes at the end for any questions that you have. But as Kayla mentioned, if we don't get to them today, we'll find a way to respond to you. So for those of you who might be new to EDC, our job really is to help Canadian companies do business successfully in international markets. We are Canada's export credit agency, which is part of a federal family of organizations that work together to support Canadian companies as they venture abroad to grow and access new markets, which includes the Trade Commissioner Service. And I think we're really happy to have Elizabeth with us today. So you might get lucky to be in a breakout session with her. And the Trade Commissioner Service is part of the trade branch of Global Affairs Canada. They are like an extended sales force that represents Canadian companies in over 160 countries around the world. So if you don't know them yet, try and make a connection. We're a sister company as well to BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, which is the bank devoted to entrepreneurs. And for those that are trying to sell to government, Canadian Commercial Corporation is one of the other federal crown corporations that can help you. Of course, COVID-19 has caused massive disruptions for Canadian companies and for our economy as a whole. And so EDC is here to support Canadian companies in good times and bad times. And as such, we have a really important role to play in responding to our current economic crisis as part of the Team Canada approach. We're committed to supporting Canadian businesses through the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're collaborating with all of our federal partners and Canadian financial institutions to help minimize the impact on Canadian businesses as we adjust our focus and flexibility to help you Canadian entrepreneurs navigate the current challenges. EDC is following the evolving trajectory of this pandemic very closely, and we're in regular communication with customers and partners, including financial institutions and private credit insurers and the Government of Canada. And we continue to monitor the impact on the global economy, and particularly on Canadian exports. And you can read about EDC's COVID-19 impact survey, as well as how the recent Canadian Trade Confidence Index has been impacted through the various EDC trade insights that we're going to be posting some links to. So throughout my presentation, do check in the chat because we're posting some links to some valuable resources all along. In the weeks and months ahead, I think many sectors will resume business as usual or some semblance of that, whatever the new normal is. But for others, it will really never be the same. And so what's important is how agile you will be. And that will certainly dictate where you land at the end of this thing. But with a bit of planning, you can get ready and hopefully land on your feet. So as I mentioned, at EDC, our job is to help Canadian companies do business in international markets. And we do this in three main ways. The first is by providing free market intelligence so that you can make informed business decisions. This includes things like economic outlooks and market guides, as well as blogs on various exporting topics. In addition, we provide export education through our partnership with FIT, the Forum for International Trade Training. So you might want to check out some of the FIT Light learning series that can help you fast track your global business acumen. And finally, our Export Help Hub. Within our Export Help Hub, you can basically ask us anything about exporting. Going global can really be complicated, and at EDC we want to make it easy for you to find the answers that you need. And if you can't find it in the Export Help Hub, one of our trade advisors will do the research for you and direct you to the resources you're looking for, all online and for free. Secondly, we offer financial products and services that help you manage risk when you're doing business abroad, and we'll talk more about those a little bit later in this presentation. And thirdly, we link Canadian companies to international buyers through our Connections program. EDC has offices across Canada and a global presence with 20+ international offices in key markets all around the world. Because we help Canadian companies do business around the world, we're experts at risk management on a global level. And for that reason, I just wanted to mention also that the Government of Canada recently expanded EDC's mandate during the COVID-19 crisis to enable us to also help domestic companies as well. So now, whether you're an exporter or not, we're here to help. And now more than ever, EDC is committed to engaging and supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs in trade in Canada, especially women-owned and women-led businesses. And we're really doing this with intention. We know that the number of women entrepreneurs is growing here in Canada and can have an enormous benefit to our economy and to the community. And our goal is to support all of you to grow and scale globally. As champions within Canada's women's entrepreneurship strategy, we're reaching out to women entrepreneurs more proactively and have a strategic plan to focus, invest, and measure our progress in supporting women-owned and women-led businesses. So check out our web portal, which has lots of news and resources specifically for women-owned businesses. As I mentioned, we're investing resources, which includes onboarding my role, which is full-time dedicated and accountable for increasing our support to women entrepreneurs. And we're setting objectives for us to work toward in that regard. We're working very closely with the entire ecosystem supporting women entrepreneurs to ensure that you have the support that you need. And our approach is grounded in 5 main pillars, really centered around inspiring and building awareness among women entrepreneurs about taking their business global and about how EDC can help. We want to provide you the education for knowledge and skills to help you export with confidence, and providing connections both to the ecosystem of support organizations as well as to opportunities internationally to grow your business. We want to enable you with financial tools and empower women with our broad corporate support for gender equity and women's economic empowerment broadly. At the end of the day, what will success look like? It will really be having more women-owned and women-led companies exporting and growing in Canada. So let's talk about exporting. Why is it critical to consider exporting as a growth strategy? Just to set some context about this, there was a study that we like to refer to that was done by Deloitte a couple of years ago that really indicated that companies who export tend to generate more revenue, are more innovative and more competitive when playing on a global playing field. Their business is less risky because they're more diversified, they have a more broad customer base, and they're better equipped to handle the ebbs and flows of economic upturns and downturns. And at the end of the day, this all leads to more resilient companies who stay in business longer. So we also know that there's great potential for more women entrepreneurs to export. Today, 11% of Canadian women-owned businesses are exporting, and that's over 12,000 companies. They're 4 times more likely to be larger than non-exporters. And we know that if we increase the number of women-owned businesses who export in Canada, even just by a small amount, we can add significantly to the value of Canada's GDP, which would be good for everyone. So why are there not more women exporters? We ask ourselves. And what I've observed in the last 2 years is that there's a lot of misconceptions about exporting. Many people think it's really only for very large companies or those that create products that you actually ship across a border. But in fact, services have now outpaced goods as exports from Canada. And with technology and e-commerce, many companies are born global. They started selling beyond our borders from the get-go. Surprisingly, many women entrepreneurs are already exporting, but they don't even know it. If you're working with a customer who's outside of Canada, even if you're providing your service here at home, you're an exporter. To learn more, check out some of the blogs we've written on this topic. And in terms of ways to get started with exporting, often companies will start by following their existing customers here in Canada. Start selling to your customers that have locations outside of Canada. Or perhaps companies leverage partnerships with complementary businesses to build a bigger proposition together that they can then take to export markets. As I mentioned, technology can be a huge enabler, and EDC recently did a webinar with Google and Shopify about selling online, and you can catch this webinar on demand now if you weren't able to see it before. And finally, sometimes companies invest in a presence in another country to help expand their global sales. So what does it take to be successful when exporting? Essentially, knowledge and preparation and planning are super, super important. This is where you can uncover where there's demand for your product and service and what's your unique value proposition for that market. It's super important also to leverage Canada's free trade agreements. They're there to make it easier for you to sell your products and services to up to 1.5 billion new customers. And as Minister Ng likes to say, who doesn't like more customers? Take the time to invest and understand the market, leverage the ecosystem of support organizations available to help. A network is really what's going to make a difference in reaching new customers and being successful in new markets. Research shows us that companies who have strong networks with partners and support organizations who can help them advance more quickly into new markets. And putting it all together into a market entry plan is really critical because it allows you to make sure you're planning for the capital that you need to grow, both human capital and the financial working capital to grow. So at the end of the day, an export plan is really your roadmap to new markets. And there's many resources that can help exporters overcome the hurdles, reduce risk, and expand their global business successfully. So developing an export plan can take you through a number of steps to assess and prepare for successful market entry. It starts with an internal focus to validate that your company is actually ready to sell abroad. You then want to look externally and validate that there's a viable market for your products and services. From there, you can build a strategy, leverage tools like a business model canvas template that can help you figure out how you're going to get where you'd like to go. And finally, plan for the resources you're going to need and outline the results you will measure to know that you're on the right path or need to adjust. When planning for required resources, there's many aspects to consider for exporting. And today we're going to focus mostly on the first two in this chart, the financial resources and the risk mitigation strategies. So one of the most important tools of financial management is cash flow forecasting and management. Taking a proactive approach to managing your cash will ensure that you're prepared and know where you stand financially. It's important to understand your position over various time horizons, including the immediate, the short, the medium, and the long term, so that you're thinking ahead about where your cash flow needs are and you're preparing for that. Similarly, looking at different scenarios where your cash might fluctuate can help you plan for those what-if times. For a deep dive on this subject, check out another EDC webinar, which is available on demand, and I believe that the link will be posted in the chat. In particular, there's a few specific things that you can examine regularly within your business to determine your business's financial health. Knowing what your working capital needs is critical. That is, the value of your current assets, which is the cash, accounts receivable, and inventory, all those really liquid assets that you have, less your current liabilities or what you owe, accounts payable, or any loans outstanding that need to be repaid in the short term. As you grow, your working capital needs or short-term needs for cash are likely to grow quickly, and it will be important to understand how you're going to manage the timing differences of inflows and outflows. You also want to be able to quantify your cash burn rate. That is, that point in time when you could potentially run out of cash. So to do that, you want to be able to sum your monthly sales and other income, and also include your current cash and capital reserve amounts, and then divide that total by your total monthly costs. This will give you the time frame that your business can run with the cash flow that you have on hand. And once you know this, you can prioritize what to do next. There's many cash flow and forecasting tools available to business owners from a variety of sources. And what I would just like to talk about now is a few tips to guide you in the process of, number one, increasing cash available to you. Number two, reduce the cash burn. And number three, delay payments if necessary. Again, you might also want to consider what time period is right for your business for ongoing forecasting of your cash, because this might change depending on the stage of your business and what's going on at the moment. For example, at the beginning of COVID and this pandemic emergency, it was important to be tracking your cash balances on a weekly, maybe even a daily basis. But things you can look at to try and increase your cash would be to proactively manage your accounts receivable, follow up with customers and try and find out when they will actually pay you. You could sell assets or inventory that you don't need in your business anymore, or explore government relief programs which can inject cash into your business. You also want to look at reducing expenses. Are there any unused subscriptions, for example, that you could cancel if you don't need them, or negotiate discounted lease costs? Trim down on expenses that won't impact the business long term. You could look also to reducing employee hours or eliminating unprofitable activities in your business. And finally, you can explore delaying payments by talking to your suppliers, talking to your banker, explore credit relief options with your banker, and even explore CRA tax deferrals, which might be possible. Forecasting your cash flow regularly will give you visibility to when you anticipate having cash shortages, and it can help you plan for that. You'll identify how much cash you need to meet your needs and when. So from there, you'll be able to explore which options might be the best for you to obtain the capital that you need based on the stage of your business. Government programs or bank loans can be some sources to increase your available cash through an increase in a line of credit or other loan programs, which are now accessible based on different qualifying criteria. But there's also other sources to consider, including money from friends and family or other equity funds, leveraging the use of credit cards, or simply bootstrapping. Using the cash, which is bootstrapping, which is using the cash that's generated by your business. But be aware that that can often hamper a company's growth. So the real key is to understand the differences between all these different sources of increased cash, value each of them according to what your business needs are, and properly consider the terms and conditions of all of those. So when you are considering raising funds, you'll want to think first about, what do you need the money for? What stage is your business at, and what do investors or lenders look for? From there, you'll be able to learn what are the options that are actually suitable for your business. And I would really recommend speaking to advisors that can help you with this, so that you don't waste a lot of time looking for types of cash that might not be appropriate for your business. Next, you want to think about the cost of the various sources of funding. For example, often raising equity is more costly than debt. However, debt may not be an option for your business depending on the stage that you're at. So carefully consider all the terms and conditions of the funding. And finally, most importantly, is whether it will help you achieve your objectives. Because at the end of the day, that's the goal. Financing can play an important role for growing companies. And from this chart, you can see that when you have a ramp up in revenues, you'll likely have a lot bigger working capital requirements. Generally, there's three sources of types of financing: a revolving operating line of credit, or long-term debt, or equity investments. In this chart, long-term debt and equity are combined and referred to as long-term financing. The operating line is there to basically help you ride out the day-to-day swings in cash. One day it's positive, one day it's below zero, right? So this volatility arises from the timing of customer inflows and outflows to suppliers and other expenses. And those day-to-day swings are really hard to control. And your banker knows this. And so that's when an operating line of credit can be really helpful to manage out those inflows and outflows. But if you're in a situation where you're perpetually overdrawn, there could be different reasons for that. And it's important to analyze it and to understand it. It could be because you're growing very quickly and you need more money, or perhaps your cash conversion cycle is long. And some businesses can finance those swings through their own internal profits, and they can put money aside for those times, but not everybody has that ability. And that's why long-term financing solutions can also be considered. Financing can come in the form of cash infusions from investors or lenders, and is really considered long-term because the repayment will extend beyond 1 year. There's some very good reasons that you might look to secure long-term financing, and the first and best reason would be, of course, to pursue profitable growth opportunities. The second is to provide liquidity to support a long cash conversion cycle, if that's the case in your business. Or finally, you might just want to finance the acquisition of a capital asset. And the benefits of debt financing are that it tends to be cheaper, interest is tax deductible, and the personal risk is mitigated. Alternatively, equity financing could cost more and certainly could dilute your ownership of your business. So to close off on cash flow and cash flow management, there's definitely some key tips around that to follow. It's essential for you to know your finances, understand the options out there, including government programs, but also see what opportunities there are to squeeze cash out of your current operations, whether from AR or from AP. Consider debt as a tool to fuel growth, and always look at sensitivity analysis to help identify and address any risks. There's many technological tools that are available to help you with proper cash flow management. Okay, so getting into the last bit of my presentation here, we've talked about the importance of your finances and cash flow, and so I just want to quickly touch and share some of the tools that are most commonly used by companies that work with EDC as they grow globally. As we discussed, companies who export tend to see a higher paced rate of growth that can sometimes be difficult to finance or to fund. But this is where EDC can really play a critical role in partnership with your bank to ensure that you're accessing the working capital that you need to go for that growth while you're also mitigating risk. As a reminder, there's several financial considerations to think about when you're in growth mode. You want to ensure that you have enough working capital for contracts, and whether you need to finance work in progress or inventory held outside of Canada. Do your contracts require performance bonds, or is there credit or foreign exchange risk? These are all the things to start thinking about as you look at exporting. And the good news is that EDC has several tools where we partner with your financial institution so that you can access that working capital and the loans that you need to grow. Today, I'm going to focus on two main programs at EDC, but I encourage you to review our website to see all the financial tools that could support your business. Our Export Guarantee Program is widely used by Canadian banks to support companies who need to fund growth. This is essentially a risk-sharing solution where EDC shares risk with the bank on a loan facility that they provide to you, a business owner. It's extremely flexible and can be applied to any type of loan facility. As we saw a spike in needs for liquidity for Canadian companies at the onset of COVID, a number of new COVID-19 related financing relief programs came into play and were released in a quick way. And one of those is the BCAP Guarantee Program. Essentially, it's very similar to EDC's Export Guarantee Program, but it's much more streamlined to make it quicker to get cash into the hands of businesses who need it. Hopefully, you've heard of some of these other solutions as well, like the Canada Emergency Business Account, a $40,000 interest-free loan, and encourage you to look at the resources online if those programs are of interest to you. The BCAP loan guarantee, for those that might need more than the $40,000 CEBA loan, relies again on the financial institution's process, and so companies can access this loan guarantee program while only dealing with their bank or credit union. You don't actually have to come to EDC to find out about getting this loan guarantee. EDC is essentially playing in the background, providing comfort to the financial institutions with an 80% guarantee on the loan amount for an up to 5-year term. The second solution I really wanted to tell you about today is credit insurance. credit insurance is such a valuable tool, and it's really, it can help you manage risk as you do business with new customers outside of Canada, because essentially what it insures against is the risk that a customer will not pay you. It's basically up to 90% coverage against non-payment by a customer. But beyond that sleep at night factor, when you're selling to new customers, or maybe you've got larger orders that if the customer didn't pay you, it would be really damaging to your business, it can also help you be more competitive because you can proactively offer more competitive payment terms to new customers. And it can also help you access more cash from your bank because they're willing to lend more against accounts receivable that are insured. We've, of course, made this program more flexible with more risk appetite and greater coverage as special conditions under COVID-19 so that companies can really take advantage of solutions like this to help them during this time. The final thing I want to talk about is our new, well, not new, I guess we launched about a year ago, our Women in Trade Investment Program, which is for those companies that are in the process of raising equity. This program was launched in May of 2019 to fill a gap in access to capital for women entrepreneurs. And we increased it earlier this year to a $100 million fund. It's essentially to support earlier stage Canadian women-owned or women-led companies that are strong candidates for growth through export. And again, this is funds in the form of direct equity. And if you're interested, please check out the link. There's more information on our website and you can get in touch with an EDC trade advisor. And that concludes my presentation. The time has gone by really quickly. Looking at Kayla to see if we do have any time for questions or if there's been any questions submitted. If we have time, I'm happy to answer those.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And as a quick reminder to everybody in today's session, we will be distributing these slides. I know it's a tremendous amount of information, so it's nice to unpack it on your own time as well. So we do have a few questions that we can squeeze in for the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
So the first question, can you speak to how the risk tolerance of debt providers has shifted due to COVID-19 and any advice or recommendations on how to work through that?
Ooh, it's a good question, right? Because at the end of the day, I mean, private lenders still want to get their money back. And that's why I think the government programs have been really valuable because it's providing that additional assurance. Lenders do, however, still want to support their customers and work with new customers and help them through this difficult period. So I think what's really important is to think about what it is that lenders are going to look for. And really it comes down to, having that plan and sharing that plan with your lender, being open and developing your relationship with your banker. So, they're going to look at what was your business before COVID? Is what's happening right now within your business purely COVID related? And really, what have you done to address some of that? Maybe to pivot your business, or do you have a plan to see beyond that? Again, that's why knowing your numbers is so critical, and being able to speak to your banker about your plans. I did have some points. If you give me 1 second, I wanted to just talk a little bit about what a banker would look for. But essentially, they want to know your business plan. They want to know that you have a solid understanding of your financial projections and where you're going to be to recover out of this period. So yes, they're tightening, but they are leveraging government programs to make sure that they can still provide the liquidity in the market. Best advice, have a solid plan when you go in and talk to them and know your numbers.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jennifer. We have 2 additional questions that are coming in. So would you be able to let us know how long CEBA and BCAP will be available to Canadian businesses? Do you have any updates on the timelines of those?
Oh my goodness, that's a really great question. And I don't want to get it wrong. That's something that I think we can follow up on.
Absolutely.
I do know that it's changing all the time. So it's important to stay current on the news because, it's very difficult to predict how long COVID is going to have an impact on our economy and on businesses. And I know the government is proactively listening to businesses, listening to the financial institutions and the ecosystem partners to understand, okay, where are we at? I know there's been talk about extending them, but off the top of my head, I don't know exactly when that's, whether it's going to be extended or not. So let's come back with a definitive answer, but I would recommend just staying in touch with the news because it will possibly change.
Absolutely. I've included a link to the CEBA announcements from the Government of Canada in this chat, but we'll include that in the follow-up email just to make sure everybody has the most up-to-date info as possible. A quick plug that Startup Canada, we're actually doing sort of lightning fast updates that we're calling COVID-19 alerts, that if there are any adjustments to these types of government supports, we're sending a message to our network of entrepreneurs. So you can connect with us if you're interested in getting those into your inbox on a regular basis, because it's a lot of information. Okay, I think we have enough time for maybe one or two additional questions. And we've had a few people ask questions specifically for startups. And I know this can be confusing with EDC in what role that they can play, particularly on the startup side. What would you recommend for a startup and how they should get engaged with EDC, or at what juncture of their kind of entrepreneurial journey that EDC would be a good fit?
That's right. And it's really, every case is unique. And as I was mentioning at the beginning, I mean, we do want to be able to support companies at all stages of their journey. At very early stages, based on where the suite of our financial solutions play might not necessarily be exactly right, but certainly we can point you in the right direction. There's a lot of knowledge resources that EDC offers that can help startups ensure that they have the information, the resources, the skills that they need. And for example, we've got a great partnership with Mars and the other accelerators like Venture Lab and Communitech, all the regional innovation centers. And so we work together with those partners to support the startup community. So that's what I would say about that, Kayla.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jennifer. And one final question that we can squeeze in. How do you get involved with EDC if you already have an export plan in the works?
Give us a call. And actually, that's a great segue to my final slide. If you want to learn more about EDC, if you're an existing customer, hopefully you know who your account manager is, but for anybody else, please reach out. I've put our direct line up there, and we have a slew of trade advisors that will be very interested to learn about your business and explore with you ways that EDC can support you to make sure that that export plan is, you can execute it successfully and confidently.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jennifer. That was such valuable information, and I know it will take a little while to absorb. But if you are interested in learning more from EDC, they are one of our wonderful co-presenting partners for the Canadian Export Challenge in the fall. So we will have additional programming, one-on-one meetings, growth lounges, lots of opportunities to also pick the expert brains over at EDC during CXC in the fall. So thank you so much, Jennifer. So on to the next part of our agenda. I am delighted to welcome Stephanie Fontaine to our virtual stage. Who is going to be telling us more about We Connect International, her role as the Canada Country Director, and some really valuable resources that she and her team can provide. So Stephanie, we'll share it over to you, and you're welcome to share your screen.
Okay, thank you so much, Kayla. I'm thrilled to be here today, so happy to be included. So let me share my screen. Just let me know if we're up and going.
You're good to go, Stephanie.
Good to go. Okay. So I want to start by again saying a big thank you to the team at Startup Canada for having me here today. I love talking about We Connect International in women-owned businesses and how we can help them. And I'm absolutely thrilled to share the virtual stage, as you say, with Jen Cook, an amazing advocate for women entrepreneurs and a colleague that I've enjoyed working with, working alongside in the space for many years. So when Jen says contact her, I would absolutely encourage everybody to do so. You must get to know Jen and EDC. I usually start my presentation with some stats. Let me see here. And the stats are really to anchor and to demonstrate why we do this work of supporting women. So globally, women control 20 trillion in annual consumer spending, and we as women make 85% of consumer purchasing decisions. But unfortunately, today, less than 1% of large corporate and government spend worldwide goes to women-owned businesses. So as you can see, women-owned businesses are not well represented, and that's despite the research that shows the tremendous potential and success of women businesses, and also the fact that women tend to reinvest, some of their earnings into their communities and making communities more sustainable. So for women-owned businesses, large supply chains can be a unique opportunity for stable and long-term contracts and a good path to sustainable growth. So women-owned businesses with products and services that are fit for supply chain are looking for guidance, and especially for connections to corporate buyers. For corporations, on the other side, they have come to recognize that diverse supply chains offer resilience, innovation, efficiencies, all sorts of efficiencies and savings. And many of the world's largest corporations now have commitments to purchase from diverse vendors, and specifically goods and services from women-owned businesses. So here you have two distinct groups, and they're trying to come together. And that's where We Connect International enters. So our mission is to help women-owned businesses succeed in global value chains. In our work, so we do, there are four main components of our work, and it's to get out around the world and identify women-owned businesses. Secondly, we encourage the suppliers to register with We Connect International as women-owned, thereby becoming part of our network. Third, we educate women-owned businesses on the huge opportunity that supply chain is, and we train the women-owned businesses on how to do business with these corporations that often have very complex procurement processes, so very different than selling B2C, or even selling into maybe a smaller or medium-sized corporations. So we partner with our corporate members so that they can provide some coaching, some mentoring, and some training on how to, for example, respond to a very complex request for proposal. And then we certify women as, we certify the businesses as women-owned. So you may have heard the expression, it's all about who you know, and that's true here as well in the world of procurement. So on the screen now, you'll see the corporations that are members of We Connect International. And it's because they want to reach as many women businesses as possible for their procurement opportunities. And keep in mind, they have some objectives that they are trying to meet, and they're unable to find the women-owned businesses. They might find some, but they want to really go out there and find as many as possible. So they become, the women who are part of our community can really begin to make connections with the procurement teams from these member buyers. And this is through activities, referrals, and events. So now that you've met our member corporations, and we have about 100 of them, I wanted to spend a little bit of time to introduce some of our women-owned businesses, our certified women-owned businesses, because these are real-life examples of women who leverage the We Connect network, and they have over time developed some really important corporate relationships. So this is Dion, and she makes organic frozen treats. And with the support of We Connect International, she met Walmart, Kroger, and Disney, and she's expanded into the US market. Metrics is they design custom learning solutions, and this is a great success story. So Jessica met Johnson & Johnson, the huge pharmaceutical company, at a We Connect International conference, and now counts them as a client. And what's important to remember here, and where it does come into play with this, the global theme here, is that these are global corporations, right? And they will often take their best suppliers on that journey with them when they go into other markets. So if you're a great supplier to a corporation in Canada, the procurement team may come to you at the annual review or through a quarterly call, and they may just ask, hey, are you interested? Are you capable of doing this this service in Asia or Latin America? So you're already in there. So that could be an avenue for growth as well. Now meet Tanya, so Walker Law legal firm. So Tanya has made many contacts through the We Connect International network, and she's been able to secure contracts with large corporations. And then BMP provides pre-employment screening services across North America. And Marty is an example of someone who's really leveraged the community, and she's made really strong connections over the last 10 years with the other women businesses in the network. And she now counts many of them as her clients. So again, with this theme of women going global, as Jen said, is not an easy, it's not easy at all. It's very complicated, but it truly is an accelerator for growth for your company. And it's important to align with the right partners, especially in the beginning, even getting to know them. So partners like Startup Canada and EDC and many of the other organizations that are in the ecosystem. So we all play a part. And what I want to do next is give you 4 things that I think from the We Connect International perspective that are really important to think about when you're going global, or when you have a plan to go global. And what is good about these 4 things is you can start working on them way before you even start exporting. So you can begin this today. All right, so first thing is you must become part of a global community. So you do not have to wait until you have a contract in another country, but you can be part of a database with buyers. So of course, We Connect has such a database, and I can tell you that the buyers from the corporations that I showed a few slides back, they search that database every day. And when they don't find what they're looking for, they call me or they call my colleagues around the world, and they say, I can't find anybody in the database. Do you know anybody else? The other thing is having the network of the women-owned businesses in 120 countries. And one example of what we did recently at a We Connect International Day, it was an event held virtually, but we had women from Canada that wanted to get to know a certain market. And we were able, through myself and my colleagues, we were able to match them up with other women in those countries. So they were able to start a chat and a video chat and kind of get to know, get that firsthand knowledge from another woman-owned business. And of course, the the buyers from the multinational corporations. My second tip is build your global credibility. So certification offered by We Connect International is a globally recognized status. So it is recognized by the companies here as well as around the world. Having your profile in the global database really helps, again, with building the global credibility. And then the women-owned logo, which you can see on the bottom of the slide, we have many women who have a product, put that logo on their product, and you may have seen it at Walmart or different places. I know that the women who work on my team, when they go out or they see the woman-owned logo, somewhere, they usually end up buying the product, and they take a photo of it and send it to me. Third, increase your global visibility. And how can you do that? Well, there are a number of opportunities to really get on the world stage. So it could be virtual speaking engagements, social media campaigns, product promotion. You can see the chickpea pasta there, and she has Shelby has the logo on her product. So there are many ways to become visible at an international level. And then be part of global activities and training. So if you are serious about exporting, you have a strategy, you have a plan, even if it's multi-year, you want to start being part of the activities where you will meet other like-minded people. And they could be potential partners or just potential connections when you do get out there into the world of exporting. So We Connect, of course, has a Canadian annual conference, but we also have them in many other countries, and we are always happy to make some introductions so that you can go to other conferences, maybe not right now, but if we ever get back to doing events in person. Matchmaking, having a one-on-one meeting with a buyer. So we actually have a number of activities that are open now where we're taking applications for suppliers to meet with buyers. And then capability or capacity building programs. So even if it's a training program, you're still going to be interacting with the corporate buyers, and you may start building the relationship. And at some point in time in the future, they may need what you are selling, and they remember, or you keep in touch, and it's a great opportunity to get your products in their products or services in their companies. So those are my 4 tips that you can start today to truly be going global. And I want to leave you with one question, and that's, where do you want to go global? We can certainly help. And then it really all begins with registration. So registering your business as a women-owned with We Connect, and then you become part of the network, get all this information, and just have these opportunities. And that is all for my formal presentation. I am hoping that we have some time left for questions.
Absolutely. Wonderful, Stephanie. Thank you so much for all of that information. As a quick reminder, we will be sending that presentation deck to everybody to answer their questions. And so a few components. So are the services from We Connect specific to startups or only scale-ups?
It's my answer is similar to what Jen said. I don't want to generalize that we wouldn't work or offer, our opportunities to startups, but I think what the businesses need to ask themselves is, first and foremost, are you 51% woman owned? Because that is the definition that we work with. Secondly, does your product or service fit into supply chain? So is it something that they would want to buy? And then third, and you can get this from us when you register your business for free, you can look at a business readiness checklist, because if you're doing business with a very complex complex procurement process within a corporation, they might ask you for levels of insurance that you don't currently have. Their payment terms may be very long, and that impacts your cash flow. So there are different things that we look for in the business readiness that would indicate whether you would benefit from being part of the network, or if you need to kind of keep working on your business and then come back a little bit later. But we will work with the business to try to find a way that they can get some value out of being part of the network.
Fantastic. And then one final question that we'll squeeze in, because the rest was about cost. So WeConnect is completely free, correct, as you just clarified?
It's completely, most of the programs are free. The conferences that we do usually have a cost. And then when you get to the certification, which is a more comprehensive audit of your business, there is a cost for that. But the initial coming into the community, that's all free. And I would say we have some 3-4 day training programs that are offered courtesy of our corporate members, and they're all free.
And then do you have to be incorporated to register with WeConnect?
No,
doesn't have to be incorporated. Wonderful. Thank you. So we'll if you have any other additional questions, definitely send them my way to our participants, but we will now head into our roundtable. So what we're going to do is break out everybody on our call. You're welcome to keep your video off, but if you would like to make some face-to-face connections with women entrepreneurs and with some of our facilitators, now is your great networking time. So we're going to have 15-minute sessions with a lead facilitator. There will be a Startup Canada representative who will be taking some notes and really bringing back some of the insights that we learn in a very consolidated 15-minute breakout session. But the questions that we're really going to ask are going to be around challenges, additional resources that would be the most helpful for you as you try to navigate your exporting journey, what new markets you're looking to enter. So similar to what Stephanie has just asked, where are you trying to go? How can we make sure that we're giving you the information you need based on specific countries or regions? And what opportunities have you identified in exporting, potentially post-COVID or particularly with your business? So lots of questions to ask in a short period of time. But what my team will do now is break us out into different roundtables, and we will leverage our facilitators who will kick off the conversation. There will be a slide on each of the sessions that outlines the 4 questions. One caveat, I will ask if everybody can just introduce themselves in the chat when you go into the roundtables so that we can maximize and get right into the nitty-gritty of the questions. So Angela, go ahead and break us out into our breakout sessions. Okay, so everybody can join their breakout room, and then we'll come back in 15 minutes. Nothing you have to do on your end. You'll be prompted.
Jennifer, did you get a notification?
I did not.
Okay, 1 second.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is my group.
I don't believe so. 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. Move to. Jennifer, you're not showing up in my feed.
Not good.
No. One second. I'm not sure why. Maybe because you were one of the presenters? I'm not sure.
That could be.
Oh, I see you now. Okay, I'm gonna put you in a room.
Okay.
I'll see you later. Hello, everyone. Oh. Hi, everyone. You are allowed to unmute yourselves. We did have a little bit of an error, so you guys were put in a room, so I don't know if you'd like to continue the conversation. I can see Janice and Andrea are not muted, so we can discuss the questions if you'd like and keep that going.
So they do a series of pitch competitions globally, and Melanie herself is actually either tuning in from Spain or Ireland. She's in transition between those countries, which is a bit of a challenge at the moment. So she'll provide some feedback in a little bit of a pitch guide, and we will also share this with all of you afterwards to share within your networks. So I will share my screen and play our video momentarily. So we'll tune in now.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm really excited to be here today. What I'm going to be going through is a Pitch Foundations Bootcamp. I recognize that we only have a short amount of time here together, so I'm just going to dive right in. My name is Melanie Ewan. I'm an international speaker, writer, and facilitator, a pitch and public speaking coach as well. So essentially after 10 years of working in the federal government, I entered the startup and tech space in 2015. That's about when I met my current business partner, Paul Broussard, and together we co-founded a company called Volition. So at Volition, we work to elevate entrepreneurship through skills-based training like this, as well as through different community events and one-on-one coaching with entrepreneurs throughout the global startup ecosystem. All right, let's get right in. Okay, so when we are putting on our pitch events and our masterclasses, we often ask people, why are you pitching? And while we do hear answers like to build brand awareness, to build confidence, one of the more common answers that we hear is, I am pitching to raise funds. This to me is a transactional response. And this is exactly the reason that I like to start with reframing. So instead of thinking of it as a transaction, I like to think about it as I mentioned, as an opportunity. But an opportunity for what? So an opportunity to honestly tell your story the way you want it to be told. And as a woman in this world, we often aren't given time, uninterrupted time, to really tell our stories. This is actually a fantastic opportunity for us, specifically as women, to look at it as an opportunity, I should say, but it's also an opportunity to generate intrigue and trust. It's an opportunity to secure a second conversation and to test out your message. Really, really important. Often people will ask us, what's the point in a 90-second pitch? What's the point in a 3-minute pitch? Even a 5 or a 10, you're not going to get funding from that, which is true. But what you're looking for is to generate that intrigue and that trust so that the people listening want to engage with you and are sitting there and thinking, oh, wow, that's really interesting. I wonder, and they have those questions. So it's essentially just to get that second conversation or third or whichever one you happen to be working on. And the last one, test your message. This is another one. It's just so fantastic to get out there, no matter what stage you're at with your pitch development, getting out and starting to test your message to see how people are reacting, to see if there's confusion. We'll get into that a little bit later, the confusion that we see about our pitches. So at Volition, we have our own structure, which I'm going to dive into in just a moment, that we've developed through listening to over 1,000 pitches and working with entrepreneurs and investors over the years. My business partner, he's been an entrepreneur for 20 years, so he also has raised himself and has developed this structure based on that. We call it Thesaurus, which you can see up here on the screen. But why is structure needed to begin with? So essentially, it allows you to be less scripted, to be more natural in your first conversation, to maintain attention of your audience, as well as to tick the boxes that investors are expecting to hear, because there are certain things that they do want to ensure that you are covering. And it is surprising how often kind of the most basic boxes are not ticked. Okay, so what is PSOIAS then? What are these boxes that need to be ticked? The idea of it is to identify the core elements of the pitch that investors expect to hear. And even if you're saying, hey, I'm not actually looking to raise from investors, these are still really important elements to know about your company and be able to communicate about your company. So you can see story is really big in the middle. I am going to get to story in just a moment, but I wanted to draw attention to that because story is what holds it all together. So we'll get into that in a moment, but what I'm going to talk about right now are the other sections, which are problem, solution, opportunity, including you and your team, and your ask. So problem. All right, so what we're answering here is probably the easiest one of all of them. It is, what is the problem that you're trying to solve? Is there a need for a solution? That's the part that some people miss out on. And the reason why I say I feel like this is the easiest one to answer is because we should always be starting with a problem and building out our solution from there, but also because this tends to be the section that people really spend most of their pitch on it. And the thing is, your audience generally will understand that a lot sooner than you think they're going to. So please do not dwell on the problem. There are ways to figure out how to talk about the problem, and more importantly, to prove that there is a need for a solution to that problem in a different way, in a quicker way. So story, again, coming back to story, having stories injected into your pitch is going to help you potentially tell the story of what is the problem that you are solving, as well as saying there is also a need for a solution because we have these customers who are doing X, Y, and Z. So that kind of story helps us understand not only what is the problem, but there is actually a need for a solution. So that's the first piece. And just please do not spend too much time here and don't get too technical either. That's the problem piece. Solution. So I mentioned earlier that there's kind of interesting pitfalls that we see come up over and over and over again in pitching. One of them is around solution, where we get to the end of the pitch and the judging panel says, that's really interesting, you seem really passionate, but what is it you do exactly? That means that you've just talked for 3 minutes or more, and your listeners still don't know what it is that you do. And this is incredibly, this happens incredibly often. So what you want, a really good way to talk about your solution in a way that's not going to get that response at the end of the pitch is to describe it from your customer's perspective. Again, talking about storytelling here, a great storytelling tool is to make use of a customer or to make the character in your pitch your customer. So you can talk about a customer story and let that kind of tell the story. What is the solution? So this is the problem that this person has. This is the solution that they need, and this is how they're making use of the solution. And then it's really easy and understandable to me. You can also test out your problem solution kind of statement with people in your life, not just your family and friends, but with tons of people, all the networking that you do. Go and just tell them, this is what we do, and see if they understand it, and see if you can kind of distill it down to even 15 words or 15 seconds or less, and ensure that they can say back to you what it is that your solution is, and just ensure that when you get to the end of the pitch, people actually know what it is that you're building. Okay, so we have your problem, we have your solution. The next piece that you want to dig into is opportunity. Now, this is a often missed area. I kind of have the blues and the reds here. The blues are the areas that people seem to dwell on a lot. They seem to be the area that people focus on the most. They're not actually the most important area. Yeah, we need to understand the problem and solution, obviously, but really when you're getting into an investor pitch like this, opportunity is the piece that we really want to understand at the end of the day. Something that's often, too often missed is revenue model. So please tell us, what is your business model? What is your revenue model? Talk about your competitors and what your unfair advantage is in the market. Do not say that you do not have any competitors. Find people who are in a similar space to you and show us that you understand there's competitors, you understand the market, but hey, this is how we are different. This is how we are distinct. And say it, you can say it super clearly, just like that. This is how we're distinct. That's what I want to hear. I want to not have a question mark above my head, like little cartoon at the end, not understanding where you fit in the landscape. I also want to see proven traction, which can be anything from users that you currently have to people who have signed up to a wait list, to where your product development is at, letters of, partnerships that you have, letters of interest in partnerships. It can be a wide range of things, but make sure to show us that you have some form of traction, because showing traction and, more importantly, momentum, therefore, where are you going next? That's really important to understanding that you really have something. So another piece to remember is relevance. That's another piece of opportunity. So that's the why you, why this, and why now. So opportunity is about ensuring that I understand your revenue model, your competitive landscape and how you fit into it, what your unfair advantage is, what your proven traction is, and what the relevance is. Why you, why this, and why now. It also says plus you here in the opportunity section. So that's about you as in the founder and or co-founder and your team. So especially when you're early stage, entrepreneurs, investors are investing in you, not so much the product or service, because they know that if you're early stage, the product or service is going to develop over time. You're going to listen to your customers, you're going to iterate, things are going to happen like COVID. And so we want to understand that you as a founder and as a team are a strong cohesive unit, and that you are the ones who are going to be able to get this done. You have some sort of background in this area, or you've gone through the effort of finding people who have the background in that area to fill the gaps in your own knowledge set. So make sure that we understand that piece. Okay, so we problem, solution, and opportunity. Now we get into ask. Another one people often forget or leave out intentionally because they say, well, I'm not looking to raise funds right now. Thing is, all entrepreneurs need something. They either need mentors, network, or money. Often the one follows the other, or they may need a combination of all of the three. So choose one and be specific. Now on your slide, you can have up to 3 asks, but please, when you're vocalizing your ask, just choose one and be really specific about how you're going to use those funds. Use of funds is really important. And just making sure that you're making it really clear that you understand your pathway to scale, that you understand what are your next milestones, and therefore what are the resources that you need to achieve those milestones, which would be the number that you are asking for. Or if you're asking for mentors, it would be, we are looking for mentors in so that we can, kind of thing. Okay, so now I'm going to get into, now that we have this, we have problem, solution, with opportunity, ask. So these are all of the boxes that we're going to tick. The next piece is around story. Why is story so important? I mean, it's fairly logical. Story, vocalizing story was one of the first modes of human communication. So it's kind of in our DNA to really understand story. It instills trust in those who are listening. It helps you create emotional attachment to those who are listening, and it makes you more memorable. So fun little fact, little science fact here, is that story also induces hormones in your listener's brain that will trigger focus and recall, trust and likability, and emotional attachment, as it mentions here, all really good things. Next, I wanted to get into, does pitching change based on gender? So I've hosted now well over 20 women's pitch events specifically since 2017. So I wanted to say off the bat that often women are more prepared and more practiced than men. So technically, the same rules of pitching apply. However, as we know, there is systemic discrimination where, like, we all know this, right? That stats around investment in women in Canada are quite low, but 4% of venture capital went to women in 2018, I believe it was, and I don't think it's changed very much since then. But this is not something we have control over us ourselves as the founders, because the why is really around not how we're approaching pitching or talking to investors. It has to do with the fact that only 15.2% of partners in Canadian venture firms are women, and this does in fact does impact who gets funding. There's also bias against women as founders, as well as against the kind of businesses and industries that we tend to work in, most of which were disproportionately affected by COVID. I don't mean this to be a negative Nancy kind of conversation whatsoever. I just wanted to acknowledge this, because a lot of people say it has to do with women's confidence issues, and I just want to say that even the confidence piece they're talking about goes back to this history of being told to be humble and perfect, which has this knock-on effect of undue pressure and decreased confidence. It's not just something we're innately born with at all. So there's kind of systemic and structural issues behind all of this that we don't have a lot of control over. My advice, generally when I'm working with women in of all different ages, is first and foremost, to, I mean, in addition to helping dismantle systemic issues, which you do not have to do, but if you want to, please do talk to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about that, as well as looking for funds and investors that specifically support women, which I know Startup Canada does have resources for that they'll be providing to you. So in addition to that, another way you can kind of put yourself, get yourself a step forward is to build a strong support network. What I mean by that specifically is to find other women who have raised, so if you want to raise capital, find other women who have raised capital successfully, find other women who have decided not to raise, maybe they considered it and decided not to, and find other women who attempted to raise and were not able to. Talk to them, learn from them. They have a lot of really good stories, tend to be very, very helpful. Also, don't assume that you have to fundraise, but even if you aren't, again, I also will say, please do test your pitch out, and test your pitch out even when you don't think it's ready. So this was, I was mentioning before, often women come in, they're more prepared and practiced than men who come to pitch, and one of the reasons is that they don't come until they feel it's ready. So being aware that a good pitch is going to grow and change as your company does. So get practice, more importantly, get feedback and iterate, and really focus on building out your compelling story, understanding your numbers and understanding your traction. That's what's really going to set you apart, regardless of what gender you are. My last piece of advice is to get visible. So say yes to opportunities and seek out opportunities, whether it's podcasts, IG Lives, Facebook groups, pitch events like this here today. Build partnerships, build those networks, get on your LinkedIn, start liking and commenting and sharing, and start writing your own articles. It's a lot of work, and I get that, but this is such an important piece of being an entrepreneur, is that building that network and getting visible, and early on, especially during COVID. So that's pretty much it for me for today. Hopefully I've stayed within the 15 minutes. You'll get all of this information on email after the event. So thank you so much, and I wish you the best of luck with your upcoming pitches. And I hope to meet you virtually or in person at some point in the future. All right, thank you. Bye.
Okay. So that was some pitch advice from Melanie. If you are looking to have a fully dedicated session talking about pitch building, we do actually have the third of three that we've been doing, coaching participants getting ready for the Canadian Export Challenge in the fall. So we'll send that info after. But just want to extend a huge thank you to everyone for joining us today. It's been, I know, a lot of information thrown your way. I know it's been a tremendous amount of content, but hopefully you feel now exiting today's conversations that you have a direction, you have resources that you can tap into, and that you at least know your next best steps. As Melanie mentioned, and particularly around the pitch competition, if you're looking to test out your pitch, if you're looking to get visibility nationally, we do really recommend that you sign up for the Canadian Export Challenge. So these are startup and scale-up pitch competitions with a chance to win $2,500 per region for the startup category, $5,000 for the scale-up category, and all competing for a $25,000 grand prize. If you do submit your application by July 31st, you can be entered in to win a profile on our website and on our newsletter to get some national visibility across thousands of Canadian entrepreneurs, investors, VC funders, and a number of support organizations. So definitely the early bird gets the worm in that space, so definitely apply by the end of July to get that wonderful bonus. So as I mentioned, we'll be sending through all of these materials. Thank you for spending your afternoon or morning or evening with us. Thank you to our presenters, to Jennifer and Stephanie. Thank you to our facilitators for navigating these conversations. And thank you to all of our attendees today for putting yourself